Our final speaker today is Maria Walls, so she'll be speaking to you shortly.
Hi, my name is Maria Walls, and I'm a senior studying rehabilitation and human services. I'll be speaking about the importance of making higher education more inclusive towards students with disabilities and ways that Penn State can accomplish this goal.
Hello. So my name is Maria Walls. First, I just want to say thank you for staying until the end. I also apologize. I have a little bit of a cough, so in case I start hacking, no one get alarmed. But I guess I want to start my story by taking you back 3 years ago. It was August 22nd, 2013. It was the first day that I moved into Beam Hall as a freshman at Penn State. And on that really hectic day, I remember feeling so many things. I was so excited. I was so optimistic. But I guess what I was feeling the most was ready. I was so ready to find my place at Penn State. I mean, I had struggled for so long trying to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be. And I thought, this will be my opportunity. Unfortunately, I'm sure, as many of you have experienced in your personal lives, sometimes things don't go exactly as we plan them to. So we fast forward to 3 months later to when this photo was taken. It is November 20th, 2013. This is a picture of me laying in a hospital bed in Mount Nittany Medical Center. That night, I had collapsed in my Beam Hall dorm room, and I was rushed to the hospital by my boyfriend and my roommate. I remember being so incredibly frail and so unbelievably fatigued. My blood pressure was a dangerously low 75/40, and it took 3 bags of IV fluid pushed into my body before the doctors would even consider letting me go home. It took only 3 months of being in college for me to get this burnout. And I mean, I had dealt with flare-ups from my disability all my life, but this was just exhaustion from trying to live an everyday life in college. 3 months of trying to assimilate to this new place, excel in academics, get involved in extracurricular activities, try and maintain a social life, all while managing my disability. And I tried everything I could, but I still remember laying in that hospital bed feeling like I had failed. I remember asking myself if college, something I had planned for and dreamed of my whole life, if it was really something for me, really something that I could handle. And I remember questioning if I would be better off just dropping out of the university to go home, try and find some other options that might be better suited for my needs. But then I had another thought. At a school of over 40,000 people, I can't be the only person having this struggle. There just have to be other students with disabilities that I can talk to, that I can relate to, who can support me. Maybe they can help me figure out how to stay here, how to do this whole college thing. So I returned for the spring semester, and I started this student organization called Wings, which is a fellowship club and a mentorship program for students with disabilities here at Penn State. And immediately I felt so comforted by the fact that I was no longer alone. And as I spoke with all of these people that I was meeting, I learned something that was so astonishing to me. And that was that the majority of these students with disabilities told me that at one point or another, they had considered dropping out of Penn State because they felt that they couldn't be successful in this environment while managing their disability. So I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only person who had experienced this awful thing. And these feelings of hopelessness and anxiety were not the result of a lack of trying. These people, myself included, were doing everything that we could to stay at Penn State and be successful. We were doing everything that was asked of us, in addition to all of the extra effort that we had to put in sometimes to keep up. So I guess you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? Why, if we are all so motivated to succeed, why were we experiencing so many roadblocks? Well, in our experience, the two-way relationship between Penn State students with disabilities and the community around us was so flawed. We were doing our best, we were giving our all, but the community around us was not giving the same effort to us that we needed. In addition, we were experiencing so many institutional and interpersonal prejudices that might not be visible to the common eye, but are crystal clear to us. And I want to talk to you about some of those today. For example, the Penn State dining commons are not completely accessible if you are a person in a wheelchair. Most of the food is too high to reach, let alone even sometimes see. So a person in a wheelchair can't simply come to the dining commons and enjoy a meal without having to ask a ton of people for help. Another example, when there are hockey games in the Pagula Ice Arena, the parking lot closest to the arena, which is highlighted here in red on this map, is reserved for people who hold premium tickets. According to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, the parking lot closest to a venue has to be reserved for people with disabilities. Instead, the disability parking is located across a busy intersection with the spaces highlighted in blue, which is closer to Beaver Stadium. So in addition to people who use wheelchairs, there are lots of people who need disability parking passes because even walking a short distance puts them in so much physical pain. And yet these people's needs are being put second to people who are giving more money to this program. And a personal story. This past fall, I had a professor tell me that if I were to use my disability accommodations to her definition of an excess, that she would take points off of my final grade. She also asked me that if I was to get sick during class, to try not to make a scene in front of her. So in the middle of the semester, I missed a really, really important class day because I was physically in so much pain that I couldn't even get out of my bed. And instead of having the comfort of knowing that I can use the accommodations that I'm legally allowed to have, I dropped this class because I was so fearful that I was going to get a bad grade because this teacher would consider this to be an excess. And then there's what people would call smaller instances, but they can really do just as much damage. Like hearing somebody use the word retarded to talk about something that they think is stupid. Or one person making fun of another person for taking the elevator up just one flight because to them they look fine on the outside. Or if you have bipolar disorder and you're sitting in class and you hear two classmates say to one another, "Can you stop being so moody? It's really annoying. You're so bipolar." Or even in my experience, having somebody push my support cane after through my headphones, I just heard them tell me to walk faster because I was going to make them late to class. All of these things make life difficult for people with disabilities. And while it's easy to say that they're isolated incidents, you would be surprised how much they build up. All of these things strung together are what make us feel unwelcome. Like our existence is a nuisance, like this place wasn't built for us, or like we are the other. Situations like this lead to difficulty achieving in academics, reluctance and fear to want to get involved in extracurricular activities, isolation from peers, and even damages to self-esteem and self-efficacy. So I have to ask, if we're struggling to stay in a place that we feel doesn't support or accept us, then why stay? Why not drop out when the going gets hard? The point is that we need to change the experience of students with disabilities in higher education. We need to fight to make Penn State more inclusive to students with disabilities because the fact is, we can't afford to lose them. 7 to 11% of the student population at any given university is made up of students with disabilities. That is a significant chunk. And these are people who have so much to offer. Their intelligence, their skills, their service, and their perspective. Which is why I've come up with 4 solutions, 4 ways that we can start this movement. These aren't necessarily the only 4 ways, but I'm confident that this is how we can start. So the first, we need to improve training so that educators can better interact with and accommodate students with disabilities. I have had so many people tell me that they've had experiences with professors who were either reluctant to give them their accommodations, which they're legally allowed to have, or their behavior or their language made them feel uncomfortable or unsupported in the classroom, and that needs to change. I know if we make the investment in educating our educators, that we can foster more understanding and more willingness to promote inclusivity within our classroom. Number 2, increase the budget of the Student Disability Resources Office. For those of you who don't know, the people who work in this office are phenomenal. Bob Berrien, Susan Anderson, Keith Jervis, all of them are so committed to the work that they do, and I've got to tell you, they do it darn well. But I know that this office could give so much more if they could hire more disability specialists. Because the good news is, their caseloads are always growing as awareness spreads and more people realize that they can get accommodations that they need. But this puts a strain on the specialists because their caseload is so large that they can't provide the individualized care that each person might need. So I think if we were to hire more disability specialists, that if students were to be in a situation where they needed a little bit something more, that our specialists would have the time to accommodate them. Number 3, a thorough examination of Penn State's compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. My 2 examples of the accessibility of the dining commons and the parking spaces at the Pagula Ice Arena relate directly to this. So not only would it progress the university forward, but it would make a world of difference for a lot of individuals in their day-to-day life. And lastly, an education campaign for staff, faculty, and students here at Penn State. Because we need to reframe the way that people see disability and the way that they talk about it, the way they think about it. Because while many of us have had experiences with this population, many of us haven't. So a lot of people just don't know what the appropriate language or behavior is. So I think if we were to put this on people's radars and educate them a little bit, people can know correct terms, appropriate language, and ways to positively help somebody who's in need. As I'm thinking about all of this, I know it can sound like I'm saying that there's so much improvement, and while I do believe that there is, I have no doubt that Penn State is capable of it. I'm so confident and so sure because with every experience that I've had here with people who don't know how to care or who want to care, I've realized that the bottom line is that this community wants to help other people. This community is so open to spreading a helping hand, to lending their help to somebody else. So I know that we can do this. It's just a matter of putting this on people's radars and educating them and making them know that they can be a part of the solution. And I want to share with you another personal story. So 2 weeks ago, I sat in my Beam Hall dorm room where I still live 4 years later, just now as the RA. And I sat in my bed and opened up an email letting me know that I was accepted into graduate school at Penn State to receive my master's in higher education. And it was easily one of the greatest moments of my life. And as I sat there and everything started to sink in, I thought about myself on November 20th, 2013, the day that I almost dropped out of Penn State. And I have to ask myself, where would I be if I had done that? Would I be as happy, as fulfilled, or as proud of myself as I am right now? Maybe, but maybe not. All I know is I wouldn't have had this beautiful moment. And I know that it was something that I worked so hard for, that I fought for every single day for over 3.5 years. And I want to fight so that other people can have moments like this, in success of whatever they're looking for, whatever that might be for them. I want to give other people moments like I had, thinking about myself and how far I'd come. It's something that I'm going to fight for the next 2 years in my higher education program here, and it's something that I'm going to fight for the rest of my life. And I hope that after this, it's something that you'll fight for with me. So, thank you.